Good morning. I said there was more. So, where is the love? Once the killing starts. Oh, they killed me, I've got to kill them back. And on it goes. It's by far, far, far the harder thing to do. This, if they strike you on one cheek, give unto them the other cheek. Why do you think Christ came to give us that message? That simple, simple, simple little message. It's not little, little's wrong. Beautiful message. This is done, I think. Because we're human beings. We're bound to fall out over minor things. And then, on it goes. It's so simple. There are 2 commandments. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And it can never be loving to kill. Who is my neighbor? Christ asked. And asks us now today. Well, in the world in which we live, this globalized world, we're all neighbors. Look at the pandemic, COVID. If COVID is beavering away in some little corner of, for me particularly, Africa, where vaccines haven't reached, mutating, well, it'll pop up again. It took forever to get rid of smallpox, which I believe is now eradicated. Nature's just in a completely different league to anything any human being can do with all our science and technology and everything. Nature just is and that's God, nature. God is everything. My patch used to be NW7, so Northwest 7, London, Mill Hill. And there was, the bus was the 113. I did actually beat it into London once, about, I think, a 13-mile walk down. I caught up with it at St John's Wood. I just got fed up. There was this monster traffic jam down the A1 and A41, Finchley Road, etc. And I caught up with it just after Swiss Cottage into the same bus. I know, because the same people were on it. Just at Lord's, actually, I think I caught up with it, just at St John's Wood there, Wellington Road. Anyway, the point of that story was, on a wall, as you went down, big blocks of flats, and there was a big high wall, sort of a 15-foot brick wall, so a big old wall, and someone had graffitied, "God is love." Now, normally, after a while, the old council comes along and gets rid of that sort of stuff. That was there for years. So, the graffiti removers obviously just looked at it and thought, we'll leave that. It wasn't Banksy. It was just, anyway. Once the war starts and the jaw is finished, then that's when people clearly lose the plot. We all know what's right and wrong when we're young. You know, from a very early age, little people children have a sense of, they know. I can see my little son at 15 months old, which was the last time Robert Francis is his name. He's dead, so was his name. Committed suicide at the age of 18. He'd be 29 now. There he was in his little high chair, being fed by Mummy and Daddy. I was properly married. In Newport Pagnell, this was. And he did something naughty, sort of flicked his food on the floor, and he knew. And I can see his little face going between his mummy and his daddy, sort of eyeing up who would he get more sympathy from. And that's the last I really knew him, at 15 months old. At 15 months, he had a sense of behaving. He just knew. I can see it now. This is, as I say, whatever, 27 years ago. He'd be 29 now. So it's sort of innate within human nature, this. You know, you go near a fire, a little one, oh, hot, hot. You burn yourself once, well, you know jolly well for next time, and you're not going to do it again. Red thing is hot. Red hot thing burns, makes pain. Ow! So how come by the time they get into their 20s, the so-called grown-ups and onwards are plotting and planning to kill each other? Look at the weaponry we've got. I once listened to this program, Radio 4, very good value for money, cost to zero, to me, to receive it, apart from the receiving device. About weaponry, and they have a weapon now which can laze out, you just laze your opponents and it burns the retina of your eyes so they're all blind. And there's a famous quote by Gandhi, I'm pretty sure it's Gandhi, that, you know, if your enemy were blind or something, well then the whole world would be blind, basically. I mean, just, the world is awash with mankind inventing. We started off with probably fisticuffs and a old club of wood in the jungle somewhere, and we're only, if anything, actually, we've gone backwards, quite frankly, with all our missiles and aeroplanes and rockets and bombs. We should know better. God does know better. God came to teach us 2,000 years ago through Christ. I am a Christian. And there it is. I have my Bible, raggedy old thing that it is. I once saw St. Francis of Assisi's Psalter, sort of leather bound, and he really lived on Monte Sabazio above Assisi, living out, genuinely out in holy poverty, and it was in beautiful condition. How did he keep it so well? There was the Poor Clares too. It's in Santa Chiara, the basilica built for St. Clare. So the Poor Clares are in enclosed order. So God put these two beautiful spirits. He put St. Francis, whose dates are 1182 to 1226. He lived to the age of 44. And then Clare was a bit younger, so she was sort of, I'm not exactly sure of the dates, but sort of 1190 through till 1250 or something. I'm not quite sure. I must look it up. Anyway, my old Bible's a wreck. It's been my bag for the last... I got it in Holland. I know I got it in Holland, a town called Dockham. At a Christian bookshop in about 2002, I think. I've got a dedication page, so it's 20 years old, but it's an old wreck. Anyway, it's a new international version, so to be one of the best, if not probably the best, modern contemporary English translation of God's Word from the original Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and so on, through Latin and so on. And it's all there, just in the 4 Gospels. Christ's teaching, the miracles, his life, etc. And even the overturning of the moneylenders' tables. I'm perceiving as an act of love, because through Christ loved God, of course, his Father. And they were being utterly disrespectful to God, the people. In the temple was the point, not out in the marketplace. The moneylenders were in the temple. So, thank you, David. Someone commented on my film of Saturday, and I've since made more of it. You know, this question of in what circumstances might it be that you or yours, family or close friends and so on, are threatened physically, and do you use violence? Now, I'm definitely clear on to the point of death. I would distinguish between my little take on this is, if you biff the other fellow in the nose, well then he's sort of, she for that matter, but they're sort of justified in biffing you back on your nose. Whereas if you tie their shoelaces together and subsequently they come and try and attack you, and then they trip and fall and bloody their little noses, that to me is an acceptable alternative to violence. Your act was not primarily a violence. If the person had just sat quietly in their chair, they would never have fallen, would they? But it is not straightforward. You know, do the police on a boozy, typical English, Middle English town Saturday evening restrain the drunken bums and bumesses? I hate to see girls tottering around, women, young women, drunk. Somehow men being drunk is more acceptable, but anyway, that's, I suppose, my... And of course you restrain people. You know, if 2 people are fighting and the police pull them apart, well, the police are using violence to some extent and handcuff them both. So it clearly is a question. You look at each situation and how you then act. But once it progresses, I mean, I mentioned the Gorgon, Medusa. There, this is Greek mythology, she had 11 snakes for hair, apparently, and if you cut one off, it would turn into 11 more snakes. So that was only her hair you'd attacked. But if you looked at her, or she looked at you, turned into stone. So it was only the look. So the Greeks weren't quite, they're pretty, that's wisdom. Just a look could kill. And there is obviously the expression, if looks could kill. Probably comes from Medusa, actually, doesn't it? If I think about it. So, it's what's in your heart that matters. Love, you see. Right, let's cut it a bit short today. Love is the answer. Boring old me, but truly. The killing has started there in Ukraine, Russia invading, etc. I wonder what's going to happen. There's someone managed to get onto the main Russian Moscow news television channel with a big sign in Russian, but with the word no to war or something like that. I dare say they're going to end up in jail. A young woman. We've done the same. I've already mentioned it, but in the First World War, if you came home, you're a coward and tarring and feathering, and they shot them pour encourager les autres, to encourage the others. Your own side lined you up in a firing squad and shot you for being a coward. Well, that's going to stiffen your sinews, isn't it? If you're feeling a bit so the message clearly hasn't got through to mankind. Quite the reverse. We go in exactly the opposite direction. Forever, that lot builds, on it's gone. Starting with the club, and then along came, no doubt, a catapult. That must have been a very early weapon, a sling and a stone. Javelin, no doubt. Then they had metal, so have a sharper point, but you can actually make a very sharp point just with fire. It's the right kind of wood, and you harden the end and then scrape it down. You can actually produce a jolly sharp weapon. There is no other way. If you live by the sword, you will die by the sword, and the West is heading to hell on a handcart, whether it's this war or another war. To me, it's perfectly clear and obvious, and COVID was there too, so a different plane of attack of humanity. To me, by God, COVID is an act of God. That's how I see it. To wake mankind up. And there's much worse to come. Before Armageddon, whether it's in our lifetimes or not. And I've got much more to say, but not now. Right, so happy thoughts, warm and dry, all clean. Washing done yesterday, all my kit nice and clean. It was a lovely sunny day here. I'm in Alnwick, Northumbria, northeast corner of England, and it was a beautiful morning. It sort of clouded over and actually rained later, but we had a really lovely, almost completely still, so no wind and so on, spring morning. So, and because I check on the weather app, there's snow forecast in Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. So it's colder in Jerusalem than it is here. Truly, I've just checked. And I check on Kiev now, they call it, don't they? Not Kiev. It's Kiev, apparently. And Moscow. Moscow's going to be minus 11 or something during the week. Jolly cold in Moscow. Love is the answer. Amen.